Welcome back to Ink and Matcha. Today I'll share with you my top 5 books that had tremendous impact on my life and that I believe you should read too. So let's jump straight into it. So on number 5 we have Gut. This book was written by Julia Enders, and one of the reasons why it had such an impact on my life is because I, as a child, had problems with my digestive system. When I got a hold of this book, I learned so much about my gut that it was life transforming because I understood how it impacted my life and how it impacted my mood and what I can actually do to rectify the situation. Not only did this book show me the science behind the digestive system, it explores in more detail how our gut flora actually affects our mood. Why do we call our gut the second brain? It talks about the power of the gut, how it all starts from what we put in our mouth and how it travels down through our intestines until it becomes a finished product, right? So this book I would recommend to anyone, especially those who experience themselves some gut problems, because you will learn so much and your life will be better knowing how it all works, what is the science behind our digestive system, how our gut flora can affect our moods, and what we can do to nourish it and treat it right so we improve and our health improves as well. So number 5, gut. Number 4 on my list is called Bushido, the classical portrait of samurai material culture. I don't have the physical book copy with me, but however I do have my trusty notes that I took as I was reading the book. The reason Bushido was so impactful for my life is because it taught me the power of discernment in accordance with reason. At that time when I discovered this book, I just wrapped up my MBA and I got my first job, and I was very much lost and confused as to what I want to do in life, what matters to me. And through this book, reading about Bushido, reading about the Codex of Samurai, their ethical system, the values that make up their dogma, their beliefs, and how the warriors were actually crafted at the time, it helped me figure out what I want out of life, what sort of person I want to be, and which values I want to uphold. And I think it can do the same thing for you, so definitely check out number 4, Bushido. Book number 3 on my list is The Courage to Be Disliked, written by Ichiro Kishimi. One of the main reasons this book had such a big impact on my life is because it introduced me to the philosophy of Alfred Adler. If you do not know, Alfred Adler, together with Freud and Jung, is one of the founders of modern psychology. The way this book is written is resembling the Greek philosophers, so the Socrates form, where you have a conversation between a student and a master or the philosopher, and they basically have a conversation where the philosopher, the teacher, the master, explains the philosophy while the student addresses him with questions and objections. This book offered to me was a different perspective on topics such as trauma and responsibility. So far, I've been very much accustomed to the works of Jung and Freud, and also the critiques of Freud, but primarily, Alfred Adler was an unexplored territory. So when I got a hold of this book, I learned a lot about how his view basically differentiates from that of Jung, and especially on the topics such as living in the current moment and what actually constitutes trauma. Is it a real thing or not? And it's a bit of a controversial topic because a lot of us hold on to certain beliefs about the experiences we had through life. However, I find that this book challenged me to consider things from a completely different perspective, and for that I really value it because it introduced me to a lens that I haven't considered before. It also explores the fundamental conflicts we experience in life, which stem from our social relationships, and it also explores how we as an individual connect with society and what is our role in society, and how our obligations and how our responsibilities are reflected on society. So what I got out of this book was new perspective on topics that were close to my heart, but also how to take responsibility for my own life and how I can see my place within a society. I think this book can bring tremendous value to your life as well. If you give it a chance, it's going to challenge you, especially if you, like me, were accustomed to a certain set of beliefs about psychotherapy and you just take them at the face value, you haven't questioned them really. So please check this book out, I think you might enjoy it. Let's hop on to the next one. Book number 2 on my list is Sophies World by Jostein Gaarder. This book talks about the evolution of philosophy from the Greeks up to the Big Bang theory. I knew about this book because my philosophy teacher back in high school actually recommended to read this. I just recently came across it, and once I read it, I understood immediately why he recommended it. Because it not only gives you an insight into historical development, but it also explores the cultural impact, and it sort of sets the foundation where you can build upon with extra literature and topics on philosophy that you're interested in. The reason this book had such a big impact on me was not only because it opened up numerous doors of authors and ideas and philosophers to explore in my own free time, but also because it introduced the thought process of thinking like a philosopher. And for me, that was one of the key takeaways from this book, understanding why you believe the things that you believe. What are your beliefs actually made up of? Or how this book likes to call it, the search for the white raven. Through this book, I ended up understanding how to pose right questions and how these questions can lead me to answers that are uncommon. It also made me reevaluate my own set of beliefs and explore them deeper. And it ties back to the artistic approach as well, of how you can study art and how you can actually use this knowledge to understand an object that you're actually observing. For example, do you understand when I show you my hand, you know, what this hand is actually made of, like the tissue, the muscle, the bone structure. And it led me down this thought process of really observing the world around me and considering why is it that it functions the way it does, and why is it that I ended up believing certain things about the world. And what sort of led me down that path. And this book was basically what set me on this journey. If you're searching for a book that would lay down the foundations of philosophy and also the cultural happenings at the time that are relevant to the development of these ideas, I think this book would really give you the set foundations, but also you will end up with a set of questions and a new set of eyes to observe the world with. So definitely my recommendation, Sophies World. Number 1 book on my list is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. The reason why this book is ranked number 1 on my list is because it talks about finding meaning in suffering. Viktor shares his own personal story of surviving Auschwitz. And after his experience, he developed a new school of thought in psychology called logotherapy, which concerns itself with man's pursuit of meaning. Here is a quote that I think sums up this book pretty well. Suffering cases to be suffering in the moment it finds meaning. If you have been struggling with depression, I think this book can help you view your own suffering and your own trauma in a completely different light. What it did for me can be summed up in this quote. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This is the type of book that is so full of knowledge and experience that no matter where you are in your current life journey, you can benefit from reading it. Not only do you learn about the atrocities that happened at that time, but you learn more about the nature of evil in people. No matter what you're going through, I'm sure you'll find some wisdom in it. I learned how lack of purpose can actually eat you up inside. So, number 1, Viktor Frankl, give it a read and let it transform your life as well. This is the end of the video. Thank you for your attention. I will be making videos in the future about each of these books in a lot more detail than I've touched upon in this one. But if you are interested in videos about writing, drawing, storytelling, I think you will find more of this content from me in the future. So please consider to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!